So people often ask me, like, what's the difference between all the different types of courier companies that are out there? And, what's the difference between Zoom2You and someone else, the more traditional sort of courier companies? So what I'm going to do is explain what the differences are. There's a number of different types of courier companies, and they all offer a different type of service depending on what you're actually looking for. So if I was Australia Post, for example, now, there's lots of postal services across the world, and they all do something very, very similar. Australia Post is generally going to be your slower type of service, and like any of the other sort of postal services across the world, generally they're offering a slower, and generally they've got a van, and it's always branded, and this van goes back to their central depot, okay? So this is the depot, not a tissue box. And so every day, deliveries come in, driver goes to the customer's location, picks up that delivery, picks up multiple deliveries in that particular suburb or city across the world. They'll drive back and they'll go back to the depot. It gets sorted. This driver will then pick up some new parcels, will go back to that depot. Typically, this driver is going back to the same area every single day. And this is what they call a hub and spoke model. Typically this is really cheap, it's inexpensive to actually do this type of delivery, but it's generally slow because they're not going to do it on the same day. It's generally going to be a next day or slower type of service, and that's because it has to go through the warehouse, it goes through sortation. There's a lot more risk in going through sortation in sort of parcels being damaged because they are going through these big machines to actually get sorted. So in that model, that's with your sort of traditional next day courier, your slower service, postal type service. Then you've got companies like FedEx, or you've got UPS, and you've got someone like DHL and many of the other sort of international brands. These types of services, these are all international services. And so if you're ordering something from the US or from Australia or anywhere else parts throughout the world, what will happen is your local driver will pick up from your home, they'll bring it back to your central warehouse, and then it will get sorted and then be packaged up to actually go to the overseas destination. Once it arrives at the overseas destination, and with services like UPS and FedEx and DHL, for example, these are all express international services. So it's going on a plane, and sometimes you can get to the other side, gets there overnight, and in a matter of days, your parcel can be received from an overseas destination. So they're generally very fast. But generally, once it's actually arrived, it's going to be delivered, the next day. It's not going to be a same-day service or anything like that. So that's the general type of services. These types of services have been around for a long period of time, and they're mostly operating through this hub network. And so it's going through a centralized warehouse. Lots of sortation happens. Driver picks up, delivers, always usually to the same location. And so these drivers might be employees. They might be contractors, but they're usually paid on a delivery rate. Maybe it's on an hourly rate, or it may be on a piece rate. So every parcel they actually deliver. And they're generally paid a very small amount of money for each of those different deliveries. So what's happened then now is that these platforms that are available, and Zoom2You is one of those options. And this is where you've got drivers that are using their own vehicle to do their deliveries. So in this instance, they're not obviously going to drive a Ferrari, for example, but this delivery is like the Ferrari of courier, because the drivers are going from the customer's location and they don't go to the warehouse anymore. The warehouse doesn't exist in this model. So in this model, the driver picks up from the customer's location, delivers it straight to the customer. It's a much faster delivery. It's generally going to be more expensive, but you have complete control over the delivery experience, because this driver is the same driver that's picked up, is the same driver going to be doing your delivery. You can track the live location of this driver throughout the entire journey of the delivery. So it's always going to be faster doing this. It's generally going to be more expensive, but you're going to have a great delivery experience, and you're going to have the experience like when you drive a Ferrari. It's going to be fast, you're going to enjoy it, you're going to love every part of it, but it's going to cost you, not the Ferrari's cost, but it's going to cost you a little bit more. So that's the difference between using a platform like Zoom2You or using the more traditional services, and how they're different. And it's completely different service offering, different price points, and used for different services. Sometimes you don't need to have the Ferrari experience. Sometimes this experience is really useful and you want something cheap, you don't need it necessarily fast. That's okay using these slower type services. But if you're looking for something that's faster, same day, and has a great customer experience and where customers really enjoy it, that's where you're going to use a platform like Zoom2You. So that gives you a quick overview on the different types of courier services that are available. It's really a matter of finding out the best courier service that suits your customer's need and choosing that to suit your business. I hope that helps in deciding which courier service is right for your business.